My wife and I gave each other hall passes for our 10-year anniversary. Needless to say, things have gone bad. When Lisa suggested we give each other hall passes for our 10th anniversary, I thought she was joking. We were having dinner at that fancy Italian place downtown where we had our first date. She looked at me with those hazel eyes that always made me cave, twirling her wineglass between her fingers. "Come on, Jake. Don't you think it would be exciting? One night of freedom, no questions asked, no judgment. Just a way to, I don't know, celebrate a decade together by remembering what it's like to be apart." I nearly choked on my pasta. "You can't be serious." But she was. Dead serious. She kept bringing it up over the next few weeks. Each time, I'd shut it down, and each time, she'd look at me with those damn puppy dog eyes. "It's just one time," she'd say, cuddling up to me on the couch. "Don't you trust me? Don't you trust us?" I trusted her. I trusted us. That was never the issue. I just didn't understand why after 10 years of what I thought was a happy marriage, she wanted to sleep with someone else. "It's not about wanting someone else," she insisted. "It's about experiencing something different before we settle into the next decade together." After 3 weeks of her subtle hints and not-so-subtle pleading, I caved. I wish I could go back to that moment, sitting on our deck with beers in hand, watching the sunset, when I finally said, "Fine. 1 hall pass each. 1 time only." Her face lit up like I'd never seen before, and that should have been my first warning. Our anniversary came and went. We had a nice dinner, exchanged gifts, made love. I had no intention of using my hall pass. The whole idea made me uncomfortable, but I figured if it made Lisa happy to have the option, I could live with it. "You're not going to use yours?" she asked about a week later. "Probably not," I admitted. "Not really interested in anyone else." She smiled, but there was something off about it. "That's sweet. I'm still thinking about mine." 2 weeks after our anniversary, Lisa went out for girls' night with her friends. She came home at 3 a.m., smelling like tequila and wearing a smile I'd never seen before. "Did you have fun?" I asked, half asleep on the couch where I dozed off waiting for her. I used my hall pass," she said, kicking off her heels. "That guy from my gym. Ryan. The one with the tattoos." My stomach dropped, but I tried to play it cool. "This was the deal, right? 1 time, no questions asked." "Oh. Was it good?" She bit her lip and nodded. "It was different. Not better than you," she added quickly. "Just different." I tried to put it out of my mind. She'd had her fun, used her pass, and now we could go back to normal. That's what I told myself as I pulled her close that night and tried to ignore the scent of another man's cologne on her skin. But we didn't go back to normal. The first sign something was wrong came about 3 weeks later. Our sex life, which had always been pretty active, suddenly dried up. She was tired or had a headache or needed to get up early. Then came the second girls' night. And the third. And the fourth. She started guarding her phone. Changed her passwords. Started doing her own laundry separately from our usual shared loads. Sometimes she'd come home with her hair wet, claiming she showered at the gym. Other times she'd wear perfume I didn't recognize, saying a friend let her try it. I'm not an idiot. I knew something was happening, but every time I tried to bring it up, she'd shut me down. "You're being paranoid," she'd say. "I used my hall pass already." That was the deal. But I could feel her slipping away, even as she kept telling me everything was fine. She'd come home late, kiss me on the cheek, and act like nothing had changed between us. Like she hadn't just been in someone else's bed. The truth came out in the most unexpected way possible. I was grabbing beers with my buddy Mitch from college, who I hadn't seen in months. We were catching up when his phone buzzed. "Sorry," he said, checking the message. "My buddy Dave's trying to hook up with this hot married chick he met at some bar downtown. Keeps sending me updates." I laughed it off. Wasn't my business. Then Mitch's phone buzzed again. Man, this guy's persistent. Look at this, he's asking if I think he should go for round 2 with her. He turned his phone toward me, and my world stopped. There on the screen was a selfie Dave had sent, him with his arm around a woman whose face I'd know anywhere. My wife. I tried to keep my composure, but Mitch knew me too well. Dude, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. That's Lisa, I managed to say. That's my wife. Mitch's face fell. Holy shit. I didn't. I mean, Dave never said, fuck, I'm sorry. When was this taken? I asked, my voice eerily calm considering the hurricane raging inside me. Mitch scrolled through messages. Last weekend. Says they met at the rooftop bar. My mind raced. Last weekend Lisa told me she was at her sister's for a girls' wine night. Has he? I couldn't even form the question. Mitch understood anyway. Yeah, man. Multiple times, according to these messages. He hesitated. And, he's not the only one. He mentioned something about her seeing other guys too. I downed my beer and ordered a whiskey. Then another. By the time I left the bar, I had a screenshot of the messages, Dave's number, and a pain in my chest that felt like a physical wound. I didn't confront Lisa right away. Instead, I texted Dave from my phone, pretending to be Mitch. Asked casual questions about that married chick. He was all too happy to share details, graphic, soul-crushing details about my wife. According to Dave, Lisa had been seeing Ryan from her gym first, the original hallpass guy. But that had quickly expanded to include Dave himself, who she'd met through Ryan at a party about a month after our anniversary. They'd hooked up at least 7 times since then, usually at his apartment but twice in his car outside a bar. She's fucking wild, dude, Dave texted. Does things her husband probably never gets lol? Then there was Jason, a bartender at some club downtown who Lisa had apparently been meeting on Thursday nights when she told me she was at book club. Dave estimated they'd been hooking up for at least 2 months. She told me she sneaks out on her lunch break sometimes to meet him at his place, Dave wrote. Says the rush of getting back to work with no one knowing what she just did gets her off. Eric was a personal trainer at her gym, not her trainer, but someone she'd noticed and pursued. According to Dave, they used the private shower rooms at the gym. She showed me texts where he tells her what to wear to the gym. No underwear under her leggings kind of shit. And those were just the ones Dave knew about. She mentioned some finance bro named Mike too. And maybe a Chris? She likes to brag about her conquests when she's drunk. I felt sick. This wasn't one hall pass. This was a double-digit body count in the span of 4 months. And all while coming home to me, kissing me goodnight, planning our future together. The worst part was reading how much she enjoyed it. Dave forwarded me texts she'd sent him, explicit messages about how exciting it was, how addictive the thrill had become, how much she looked forward to their meetups. Different dick just hits different, she'd written in one particularly gut-wrenching message. Don't get me wrong, I love my husband, but variety is my new drug. I waited until the weekend. Lisa said she was going shopping with her mom. I called her mom on a hunch, she was at home alone, hadn't made plans with Lisa at all. When Lisa came home that evening, I was sitting in the dark living room, a glass of whiskey in hand. Jake? Why are you sitting in the dark? She flipped on the light, shopping bags in hand, a prop for her lie. How was your mom? I asked. Good. We had lunch at that new Thai place. That's funny, I said, my voice steady despite the rage and hurt coursing through me. Because I talked to your mom today. She was home gardening. Alone. Lisa froze. I can explain. Let me guess. You were with Dave? Or was it Ryan today? Or maybe Jason? Eric? Mike? Chris? How many are there now, Lisa? 10? 20? The color drained from her face. How did you? Does it matter? I stood up, showing her my phone with the screenshots. One hall pass, Lisa. Not fucking half the city behind my back for months. It's not what you think, she said, tears forming in her eyes. I love you, Jake. It's just physical with them. And that makes it better? I laughed bitterly. You've been lying to my face for months. Sneaking around on lunch breaks? Fucking some bartender while I think you're discussing books? Using the gym showers with your trainer? She looked stunned. How do you know all this? Your buddy Dave's quite the talker. Especially when he thinks he's texting Mitch. Oh God. She sank onto the couch, face in her hands. Different dick just hits different? Really, Lisa? While I'm here thinking we're having some minor rough patch? I never wanted to hurt you. That's why I kept it secret. She was crying in earnest now. I discovered something about myself after that first time. The excitement, the novelty. But I never wanted to leave you. Never. So what was your plan? Just keep cheating on me forever while I'm the oblivious husband at home? It's not cheating if. If what? If you lie to me about it? If you pretend everything's normal while you're screwing other men? What part of one time only did you not understand? She reached for me, but I stepped back. Please, Jake. We can work through this. I'll stop, I promise. I'll do anything. Why? So you can resent me later? So you can go back to sneaking around once I trust you again? No. She was sobbing now. I made a mistake. Please don't throw away 10 years because of a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pay a bill. A mistake is burning dinner. What you did was a choice. You made it over and over and over again, dozens of times with multiple men. I went upstairs and packed a bag while she followed me, pleading, promising, bargaining. When I headed for the door, she grabbed my arm. Jake, please. I love you. I only want you. Funny way of showing it, I said, pulling away. I'm staying at Chris's place. I'll be back for the rest of my stuff later. We can fix this, she cried as I walked out the door. Please, just give me another chance. But I was already gone. The next month was pure hell. Lisa called me constantly, sometimes 15, 20 times a day. When I blocked her number, she used her friends' phones. When I blocked those, she created new email addresses. She showed up at my work, causing a scene in the lobby that ended with security escorting her out. She waited outside Chris's apartment, sitting in her car for hours until he threatened to call the police. She's fucking unhinged, man, Chris said one night, passing me a beer. I get that she's sorry, but this is next level. The worst part was that a piece of me still loved her. 10 years doesn't just vanish overnight. Every time my phone lit up with an unknown number, a part of me hoped there was a path back from the abyss. Even as another part of me knew it was impossible. After 3 weeks of this, I agreed to meet her in a public park. I figured the open space would prevent another scene. She looked terrible, thinner, with dark circles under her eyes. She launched herself at me, trying to hug me, but I stepped back, maintaining distance. Thank you for coming, she said, hands trembling. I've been going crazy without you. Lisa, this has to stop. The calls, the emails, showing up at my work. It's harassment. I know, she nodded frantically. I'll stop. I just needed to see you. To make you understand how sorry I am. I understand that you're sorry. But being sorry doesn't undo what happened. I've started therapy, she said. Twice a week. I've deleted all social media. Changed my number. I blocked all of them, Ryan, Dave, all of them. I haven't even spoken to any of them since you found out. That's good for you. I'm glad you're getting help. I did something terrible, Jake. Unforgivable. Tears streamed down her face. But I'm begging you to try. For 10 years. For everything we built. What we built is gone, Lisa. You destroyed it. One piece at a time, every time you lied to me. Every time you slept with someone else while telling me you loved me. But I do love you, she cried, drawing looks from other parkgoers. More than anything. If this is love, I don't want it. She fell to her knees then, right there on the grass, sobbing uncontrollably. People were staring. An older woman asked if everything was okay. I felt paralyzed with embarrassment, with pain, with a conflicted urge to both comfort her and run away. Please get up, I said quietly. You're making a scene. I don't care, she sobbed. I don't care who sees. I'll beg you on my knees in front of the whole world if that's what it takes. I helped her up, if only to end the spectacle. This isn't healthy for either of us. Just tell me what to do, she pleaded. Tell me how to fix this. I'll do anything. There's nothing to fix, Lisa. It's broken beyond repair. I'm filing for divorce. The word divorce hit her like a physical blow. She staggered backwards, her face contorting in anguish. No, no, no. Please, Jake. Not divorce. We can go to counseling. We can take time apart. But please, not divorce. I'll have the papers sent to your sister's place. Please stay there. Don't come to the house again. As I walked away, her screams echoed through the park. I didn't look back, but I could hear her collapsing, sobbing my name over and over. It took everything I had not to turn around. For the next 2 weeks, there was silence. I thought maybe she'd finally accepted it was over. I filed the divorce papers and tried to focus on rebuilding my life. Then one night, around 2 a.m., the doorbell rang. Lisa stood on our porch, drenched from the rain, her eyes vacant and unfocused. I took pills, she said, her voice slurring slightly. Not enough to die. Just enough to be brave. Jesus Christ, Lisa. I pulled her inside and called 911, then her sister. While we waited for the ambulance, she leaned against me, mumbling incoherently about how she couldn't live without me, how she'd rather die than lose me. The paramedics took her away. Her sister met them at the hospital. I spent the night pacing our living room, sick with guilt and confusion and rage, not just at her, but at myself for caring so much after everything she'd done. The hospital kept her on psychiatric hold for 3 days. Her sister called with updates that I didn't ask for but couldn't bring myself to refuse. Depression. Anxiety. Suicidal ideation. She'd be starting intensive outpatient therapy after discharge. I sent flowers to her room with no note. It was weak, I know. But I couldn't stop caring about her overnight, despite everything. When she was released, she sent me a single text, "I'm sorry for everything. I'll sign the papers. Please just talk to me one more time before it's over." We met at a coffee shop downtown, neutral ground. She looked frail but more composed than the last time I'd seen her. The manic energy had been replaced with a quiet resignation. "Thank you for the flowers," she said, hands wrapped around her mug. "And for agreeing to see me. How are you feeling?" I asked, unable to keep the concern from my voice. "Medicated." She attempted a smile. "But better. Clearer. They have me on something for anxiety. And depression. Your sister said you're doing therapy." She nodded. 3 times a week. Plus group therapy. She paused. "I know it's too late for us. I know that. I need you to know that I understand what I did now. Not just to you, but to myself." "What do you mean?" "The therapist thinks I was using sex as self-destruction. That I wanted to sabotage us because I didn't think I deserved happiness." She looked down. "Or maybe that's just what I want to believe because the alternative is that I'm just a selfish bitch who ruined the best thing in her life for some cheap thrills." "I don't think you're a selfish bitch," I said quietly. "I think you got lost somehow." Tears welled in her eyes. "I did. I got so lost. And I hurt the only person who ever truly loved me. We sat in silence for a moment. I'll sign the divorce papers, she said finally. But can I ask you for one thing first? What's that? Can we have one day? Just one perfect day together before it's over? No talk about what happened. No fighting. Just one day to say goodbye properly. Every instinct told me to say no. That it would only prolong the pain. But looking at her across the table, I found myself nodding. One day, I agreed. This weekend. We spent that Saturday together, going to all our old favorite places. Breakfast at the diner where we had our second date. A walk through the botanical gardens where I proposed. Lunch at the food trucks by the river. We didn't talk about the affairs or the divorce. We talked about memories, about her therapy, about my work. It was strange how easy it was to fall back into our old rhythms, to laugh at inside jokes, to feel comfortable in the silence between conversations. For a few hours, I could almost forget what had happened. Almost. As the sun began to set, we ended up at the beach where we'd taken our first vacation together. Sitting on the sand, watching the waves, I felt her looking at me. I know this doesn't change anything, she said softly. But I want you to know that I'll always love you. And I'll always regret what I did. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. Can I ask you something? She continued. And you promise to tell me the truth? Okay. In another world, if I just used the hall pass once like we agreed, do you think we would have been okay? I thought about it. Yes, I said finally. I would have hated it. Been jealous. But we would have moved past it. She nodded, wiping away tears. That's what I thought too. She took a deep breath. I'm sorry I destroyed that world. Me too. The therapist thinks I was using sex as self-destruction. That I wanted to sabotage us because I didn't think I deserved happiness. She looked down. Or maybe that's just what I want to believe because the alternative is that I'm just a selfish bitch who ruined the best thing in her life for some cheap thrills. I don't think you're a selfish bitch, I said quietly. I think you got lost somehow. Tears welled in her eyes. I did. I got so lost. And I hurt the only person who ever truly loved me. We sat in silence for a moment. I'll sign the divorce papers, she said finally. But can I ask you for one thing first? What's that? Can we have one day? Just one perfect day together before it's over? No talk about what happened. No fighting. Just one day to say goodbye properly. Every instinct told me to say no. That it would only prolong the pain. But looking at her across the table, I found myself nodding. One day, I agreed. This weekend. We spent that Saturday together, going to all our old favorite places. Breakfast at the diner where we had our second date. A walk through the botanical gardens where I proposed. Lunch at the food trucks by the river. We didn't talk about the affairs or the divorce. We talked about memories, about her therapy, about my work. It was strange how easy it was to fall back into our old rhythms, to laugh at inside jokes, to feel comfortable in the silence between conversations. For a few hours, I could almost forget what had happened. Almost. As the sun began to set, we ended up at the beach where we'd taken our first vacation together. Sitting on the sand, watching the waves, I felt her looking at me. I know this doesn't change anything, she said softly. But I want you to know that I'll always love you. And I'll always regret what I did. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. Can I ask you something? She continued. And you promise to tell me the truth? Okay. In another world, if I just used the hall pass once like we agreed, do you think we would have been okay? I thought about it. Yes, I said finally. I would have hated it. Been jealous. But we would have moved past it. She nodded, wiping away tears. That's what I thought too. She took a deep breath. I'm sorry I destroyed that world. Me too.